Okay, round two, you guys. We're going to give this a second shot. So say hello if you're joining me. We're back. And as soon as I can find Ryan, we're going to go live. Let me know when you're here, Ryan. There we go. All right. Here we go. I just requested you to join and it said that you can't join due to technical issues. Try requesting to join. Hey everybody. So here's the kind of funny thing. Ryan's Hinsdale Archives deals with a very haunted place. And of course, you know, being a psychic medium, we always are dealing with spirit. So we're going to see if we can get this going here. And if not, I suppose we will have to figure out another way. But let's see if we can get him on screen. Keeps telling me technical issues. Yep, I requested him to join. Do you see the join now button, Ryan? And I'm sure hoping we can figure this out because you're going to love Ryan as much as I do. Yeah, is it hard to hear me? Can you hear me better now? So just so you all know, as we're trying to figure this out, Ryan is filming the second season of Hinsdale Archives currently. And actually he's filming like right now as we speak. So he actually left the Hinsdale house to be able to join us tonight. And clearly there is a challenge. Oh, I might have it. Where is that ad? Here we go. The suspense is killing me. Oh my gosh. I can't hear you. Oh,
Ah,
yes, I can.
okay. Whew.
That was a very interesting start to our interview tonight. Thank you so much for being patient.
Thanks for having me. I was on my MacBook and I didn't have any like join buttons or anything like that, so I have no idea. I had to switch to my phone.
Yes, clearly I was on my computer too, and that's why I couldn't get you to join on that first of all. But either way, we got it figured out, and I'm super excited to be here with you. Just want to say welcome to the first ever Soul Chat with Dani Jo. And my assistant Brooke is watching, so she will be kind of moderating some comments if we have any good questions towards the end. But first of all, I just wanted to kind of give everybody a little heads up on how we met, and then I'll let you kind of talk about your story and who you are. But Ryan and I actually met, maybe it's been 2 years now. I'm not even sure because I'm terrible with dates.
2019.
2019. Okay, so three, gosh. Um, so we actually met when the paranormal team, give me the name, Chris and Wes's team. Do they have a name?
Uh, well, she has the open range events, so that's what they were doing.
Open Range Events, that's right. So Open Range Events came out here to work with Black Hills Paranormal, and so we got to meet during that event, and just really, really enjoyed meeting you, first of all. But the cool story that I want to tell that I kind of hinted at the other night was when you and I were prepping and helping with the experiment of the Ouija board.
Hmm.
And I, told Mo, yes, we can try this experiment, but I want to make sure that we have plenty of protection around us. And as I was kind of going to put protection, I was like, man, there's some serious protection here, and it's all colored in blue. And I was like, who's doing that? And you were like, I am. I will never forget that.
You were blindfolded, and you even looked right at me, and you're like, "Is that you?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
That's crazy. I don't even remember that I was blindfolded. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from and what you do, just so these people can kind of get to know you.
So I'm Ryan, and I about like 10 years now, a little over 10 years, I was getting into like the paranormal and doing that, and just kind of wanted to see things for myself, kind of just get my own experience. And before even really venturing out in that, I had my first experience with a medium, and she was like, you're open to all this stuff too. And back then I was kind of like, yeah, okay. But then I started having more and more and more experiences and doing more with it. And it came to a point where like I was in these locations and I was seeing things in my mind's eye that, other people weren't picking up on. And I was having uh, kind of like conversations before EVPs would be replayed and stuff like that. So I was picking up on things, and then in the midst of all that, I kind of fell in love with like filming, and so I created Finding Phantoms to do film work and kind of like produce cool stuff and kind of share what I experienced and everything. And over the years, I started doing tarot readings too. Um, and then I kind of just started doing both of them. So I was going to events and doing like paranormal events and stuff, and I was doing readings there and everything. And then 2020 actually, um, over a couple of years, I had been working on a big series that I called the Hinsdale Archives, and that released on Amazon in March of 2020. And then I've been working a little bit here and there on like a season two. I was supposed to be.
Okay. So I'm curious, and I don't know if I've ever heard you tell this story, how you actually got involved with Hinsdale House.
It was kind of a weird story because we were. So I had.
I can't hear you. Is anybody else having trouble with Ryan's volume?
It's my phone. Is that better?
Yeah, you're really muffled.
Any better?
Can you guys hear him okay? Okay, must be just me that, okay. Oh, a couple others can't hear. No, it's still really like almost like it's muffled like this.
It's got to be the phone. It's an old phone. I kept dropping my earphones.
They're going to work us. Oh, we lost him. All right, give him a second. He must be having technical difficulties. We'll get him back here in just a minute. So, those of you who don't know Ryan, he's actually a phenomenal reader. I've had a few sessions with Ryan involving tarot cards and color readings and numerology, and he's phenomenal. So, you guys will absolutely love him if you check him out, get on his schedule. But we'll let him tell you more about that here shortly. I'm sure he'll be right back. I'm hoping that most of my guests won't have this much trouble with spirit. Awesome, Chelsea. He is awesome. We're waiting for him to join us again. We lost him shortly ago. All right, here he comes. Right, Chris? I agree.
Okay. Better?
There we go.
Can you hear me better this
Absolutely.
time?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, this phone, it keeps dropping like the Bluetooth. It's an old phone and I, beat it to death, so.
No worries. We can hear you now. So just asking me about
All right,
Hinsdale
good.
House then.
So how I got associated with it. So I had my first like partner in the paranormal that I was traveling with. He backed out. We kind of just had like different visions for things, and so we had
Okay. We're going to get this story about Hinsdale House. So a couple of things I'll tell you. Ryan has started a kind of like a traveling museum of haunted artifacts. And so he does have a few things from Hinsdale House, which is pretty cool if you think about it. This place is uh, pretty terrifying. Honestly, magical vanish. I love it. He has more skills than we know. Um, but yeah, Hinsdale House for him is kind of like had a life of its own. Yes, Hinsdale is telling him no talking. Hopefully we'll get him back here, and if not, we'll just have to adjust and have him on another night. Um, but let's give him another chance to join. Anyway, Ryan is an amazing, uh, compassionate empath. He's super, super intuitive, and I resonate with his energy a lot. Truly dedicated, from the heart type of person. So someone that I truly admire. So Hinsdale House, I'm not sure exactly where it's located, but he lives further east, and I'm not sure exactly what state the Hinsdale House is in, but we'll let him give us the info if he gets back. He's got a really great skill for producing and filming as well. So if you guys watch the Hinsdale Archives, you'll notice that. Illinois, upstate New York. I'm not sure which one. Maybe he's from one and the Hinsdale house is in the other. But he does a phenomenal job. Phenomenal job. Brooke's like, way off. So if we get Ryan back on, what are your questions that we would like him to answer? Hey, Arispat, we lost Ryan. We're just waiting to see if he's going to join us again. He may not be able to. Brooke will let me know if he is messaging. And if he's not able to rejoin us, we will definitely reschedule him. We're probably going to do our Soul Chats podcast probably maybe every 3-ish weeks or so. So it's going to be on kind of a random schedule. So keep watching the page to see who's going to be joining us and when we're going to be going live. With my schedule, it'll be easier to just kind of fit it in into random days. Hey, Noya, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We probably won't take any spiritual questions as far as like readings tonight, but we'll see if we can get him on at all, and then we'll kind of go from there. Here we go. Looks like he's coming back. This is going to be a podcast to remember, that's for sure. Hello.
Again.
Look, everybody, it's Ryan Wefelmeyer. Somebody said you had the magic poof. I can't remember what Brooke said, but it was like you've got all kinds of skills disappear randomly.
Right.
Yes, I love it.
Like time travel. But,
yeah, time travel.
But anyway, Hinsdale, it's located in right over the Pennsylvania line, pretty much west side of New York. And the first investigation we were supposed to do, my partner at the time, he backed out and then had canceled the visit. And there was something in me that was just like, no, I'm going, like, regardless. So I ended up booking, and that was back when Dan had like just bought the house. So I mean, that was back when you could give him a week's notice and schedule it instead of a year. But the first time we were there, it was just like more of the place, and it starts to come along, wants your attention. And the whole upstairs is gutted as far as like electricity goes, and so no lights, nothing. And we had something in the staircase, like a flash bulb, go off in the middle of the night, and that got our attention. And then after that, it was kind of like there was just this pull, and for every question you are seeking in that place, you get, an answer that gives you 10 more questions. So it's kind of like a never-ending thing where you're constantly asking more and more and more. And then out of everywhere that I've been, like schools have their own thing, hospitals have like their own vibe, but this place is like a mesh of everything. So you've got this Native American energy on the land, you've got everything that's happened in the house, you've got things that other investigators are like bringing in and impressing on the location. And there have been counts of with investigators and with people who have lived there, and even townspeople. You've got a mix of UFOs. You've got stuff captured in the woods that's like mythological creatures that have been caught on camera. So there's just it's like a threshold of like everything and molding into this place. So that's what kind of always drew me into it, and that's how the documentary kind of came, is because it got to a point I wasn't even intending to make anything out of it, but I had like a stack of hard drives full of all this footage, and I'm like, I need to do something with this. So that's kind of how that all started.
That's amazing. What is your most memorable moment in the Hinsdale house?
I would say two that stand out are the flashbulb experience, but then the last time we were there, it was just two of us in the location, and it was we were wrapping up, and the whole like maybe 15 minutes before we were leaving, it was the whole vibe shifted, and it felt like 1,000 eyes just on you, and I was outside and Maria was inside, and she had thought I was talking, and I'm like, I didn't say anything, and this is actually in the documentary. Fortunately, I had a body mic rolling, so if I didn't have that, I would have never caught it. But you hear stuff, like you hear voices talking, and these are actually responding to us. And then I'm like, hello, and nothing, and then I'm like, all right, goodbye, because we were leaving. And then on the way out, I had forgotten to turn the porch light off, so I opened the door to go back in, and a solid audible, like you and me audible, comes back at us in a male voice, and we were both kind of stunned standing there, and we didn't realize it at the time until playback. But when we played the audio back, you heard boots on hardwood floors like coming towards us.
Wow.
And I've never, even to this day, I'm kind of like, did I really experience that? And it's so hard to wrap my head around that experience. It was crazy.
Right? I feel like that's one of the coolest things about being in, a spiritual line of work is having those moments where you're like, is this really happening? Like, did that
Right.
happen? Because sometimes you just can't believe it. But we did have a question. Rhonda Van Zanten asked, what kind of protection do you use before a Hinsdale investigation?
Some people have like a little ritual or something they do. I have been drawn to burning like mugwort or kind of like burning something, having the fire pit going as kind of like a place. I'm not the only one that's had that vibe and notion to do that. But my biggest thing is more like I kind of approach it with the attitude of like this, the bubble around me, this is my space, not yours. You're here, and when I leave, you're not coming with me. And so I kind of just I don't really have like a ritual or anything I do. I just kind of have that mental guard up, I guess you could call it. And so that's kind of just like anything that happens here stays outside of me and it stays here when I leave. And the closest thing I've had it as far as like following me, I mean there's so much energy there, and I feel like it does to a little bit of an extent follow everybody, but it kind of dissipates as the days go on. But I was actually in the documentary. I think it's episode one. It starts with like a really far drone shot coming up to the house, and it was one of those times that I was there by myself, and I was wrapping up, and I had my truck parked like at the end of the road so it wouldn't be in the shot, and the truck was running, and I'm like, this is the last thing I'm doing before I leave, and I had the gut feeling to leave my window down, so I did. So I'm getting a long drone shot across the property, and all of a sudden I hear from where I'm standing, my doors lock in my truck. So if I never would have wound the window down, I would have been stuck out there, no cell phones. I would have had to walk to town to get help. But it's crazy when that happens, and then the energy just typically like just kind of keeping that mental guard up keeps it kind of at bay. But it does kind of you feel different for at least a day or two. Like after you've been there, you feel a little bit heavy. But
Sure.
that location in particular, I kind of lean into like how feng shui, the idea behind that is that your furniture and surroundings be to a point where rearranging it has to purge. And so every so often it just all this crazy stuff happens and that's its purge, and then it kind of settles back down into like the normal shadow figures and like EVPs or like typical experiences.
Sure. Crazy. Well, what is the future of Hinsdale House? Do you know?
Dan is turning it into like kind of how it looked when the Dandies, which their story is the most famous residential story there. He's turning it into that, and he wants it to be like a museum kind of to that time and to that family and everything. So I mean, the investigation fees and everything for his Patreon and stuff that he hosts there, that all goes to restoring it. And I think I haven't been there since it's been done, but I think he like closed in the porch better, and it looks like he's constantly doing renovations to it. So he's constantly trying to upgrade it and kind of keep it restored. And I feel like the house kind of stays calm for him. I mean, for the most part, and because the house knows that without him, it would be rotting away, and I feel like it definitely has its own consciousness and awareness.
Sure, that's awesome. So do people like can they make appointments to go investigate there? Does he allow that, or is it just for special groups?
He anybody can really book it. I'm not sure what his. If you just, I don't remember what his website is, but if you just Google Hinsdale House, it's like the first one, the first result or something like that. He's got a calendar there where you can reach out to him on like social media. Daniel Clace. He is booked for the weekends pretty much through like November last time I checked. So he's usually pretty
Nice.
booked solid. And then he blocks it off for, I know like Photographs for Pooches does charity events there. So like he'll block it off for certain events. But yeah, anybody can find it and book a time to go there.
Very cool. Very cool. So, um, tell me when you realized that you had intuitive gifts, or when that kind of became a something you were aware of.
Um, I kind of, after I was told about it, started when I first started like experiencing things in locations that I always say were meant for me, kind of starting to see things in my mind. I started thinking back to like all the stuff I've experienced where I kind of had that gut feeling, that like intuitive feeling to things, and if I followed that, I would have been right. So I kind of played with that, and then as a tool, I started using tarot, and then I started just kind of doing readings for people here and there, and then it kind of just, well, I got good feedback on that, so I started doing more, and then it kind of just grew from there, um, to where like I I can feel energy remotely, so like I'll be doing my thing, and then all of a sudden like something will pop in my head, like I need to check on this person, and something's happening with them, and so that's happened, and then um, I feel like every time I kind of like put that to the back seat, that something happens. That spirits kind of like, I use the analogy of the kid that's at the top of a, but the kid behind them pushes them down anyway. That's what spirit does to me. So every time I kind of put it in the back seat, they're like, nope, and I just get like pushed right back down. So going for the ride either way.
Just that little wake up call and reminder, we're still here. We still
Yeah,
want you to do this. That's
yeah.
funny. So, looking back though, do you think maybe you always had your gifts and you just didn't realize what those were?
Yeah, I mean, I recall certain things that like I would have experiences as a kid, or like that nobody else would have, and then I had a lot of like the intuitive moments, but I had a lot of like it's just your imagination kind of experiences, but it
Yeah.
looking back it probably wasn't. So um but I mean, it came back around to the point where I had to realize it either way. So
Yeah. Well, we have a comment here, a question from Barb. She asked, why do you think some places are more active than others? I almost
um
deleted her comment there. Do you want to answer that as like an investigator, how you feel about it?
I think there's a couple of variables. I think it kind of depends on the location itself. Um, Energy, I feel like it needs like momentum. So if there's a location that's kind of not visited frequently, then I mean it might go through its cycles, but activity kind of doesn't stir up until people are in there because it kind of needs a power source. And when you're investigating and you go into a place and you're putting forward that communication intent, you're putting that energy out like kind of like a light bulb radiates light. You're just pulsing that energy forward into that location. And I think it depends on the person too, because like some locations people don't get anything, some people go in and get a lot, and then like when we were we kind of did like a spin-off thing with traveling, so we were filming like just not even paranormal stuff, just travel stuff, and I'm catching EVPs on these cameras, and we're just filming, and so it's like the infinite intelligence and universe, whatever you want to call it. It's like, okay, I know that you're open to this, so like the one was at Fort Wilkins, and it's an old military base, and we caught you. And it's like, why did it not go to the person that was ahead of us or the person behind us? It's like they, once you're open to it, it knows you're open to it, so it leaves, it picks and chooses who it can talk to or try to communicate with. And then I think it also depends too on just kind of the approach that people take, because you're everywhere you go, you can't even shut it off. You're impressing your energy on it. So if people go into an investigation in a bad mood, that can influence that energy and impress that a little bit on it, and then you'd be picking it up. So really, I think that's another reason, going back to Hinsdale, why it's so active and why so many different variables happen, is because just it's constantly got people. And part of my experiment when I was by myself was I'm shutting these doors and leaving it empty for like a week, so that way it kind of just baselines itself back out. So
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like the same, like when we do the Adams House, so it's a place that we go regularly and we see it a lot every year. The people make all the difference in the world. If we have drunk people on a tour, the house is like done with activity. And if we have people that are just super into it and really respectful and excited to be there, we'll get all kinds of activity. So I totally get that. Makes such a difference, such a difference. We had one more question here from Carity. She asked if we think that spirits come around because they have unfinished business or feel like they were taken too soon. Do you want to respond to that?
I see, that's kind of a question too that like I kind of wonder myself, because so when we pass, we are connected right back with our soul, which is supposed to be that divine loving energy. So if a spirit feels like they're taken too soon, that would kind of be looking at it in like a negative way, and like spirit and your higher self can't look at things in a negative way. So I feel like if they come back for that kind of a reason, it might be just they have like a message for somebody and they come back for that, or maybe they were at a point where whether it was like they took their own life or whether it was an accident or something, but it was that they were in such a low vibrational state when it happened, they're not aware of what happened, and so they're still kind of trying to maintain that, and they're not connected back up with their higher self. So that's when I feel like the unfinished business, because there's something that they were working towards, but it was kind of like a earthly thing for them. So they were focusing on that 3D. They were in that lower, heavier energy, or like as maybe they were battling their own demons at that point, which is just they were not focusing on that higher vibrational energy. So, but I honestly think that a lot of places are more active. I don't know if they're more active now than they like were 100 years ago, or if it's just our awareness of it. But we have more technology that can help us along the way.
Sure.
The vibration of humanity is rising enough to be able to work with spirit more, so that veil is thinning. And I really honestly feel like a lot of places are just like they're there to play with us, so to speak. Like, oh, you're here to talk to us. That's cool. Like, we'll play with you, and we'll show you. Because we're fascinated with the stuff they can do, but we're still in body, so they're fascinated with what our reaction and like our physical response would be. So it's kind of like a playing together kind of thing.
That's a great way to look at it, definitely. So have you come across, this is my own question, have you ever come across souls that are kind of like stuck earthbound or need help transitioning? Have you ever experienced that ever?
Once we were in a place in Gettysburg, and it's think it's like a historic, or no, the historical society owns it now, but it used to be an apartment. And the story behind it was a young lady was living with her boyfriend that he was like an abuser. And this was like 1930s time frame. Um, but one night they had a fight and the cops had a domestic call there or whatever, and they kind of just took their time because they're like, this location again, so because they've been there so many times. But what the fight happened upstairs and she got pushed down the stairs and he ended up killing her in the kitchen. But you know, we did a group investigation. It was one of the first places that I had done years ago, and we didn't really feel anything or experience anything, but I had a camera on the staircase that caught what sounds like something falling down the stairs, and there was a help me with it. And I feel like that wasn't the hard part to discern. Is with that, I feel like it was more like a residual thing replaying on a loop. We did that night have bad storms, and later that night we had a hurricane come through. Well, tropical depression at that point had come through, so that energy building with the storm could have been really ramping up what's, you know, locked in that location. And there, you know, the brickwork and the stonework that's in that building, they all have the metals that act like a tape recorder anyway. So that could have been a residual thing, or if it was intelligent and that was like her reliving that, it could have been another case of like a tragic thing to where she's not sure what happened, so she keeps just kind of like stuck in a loop reliving that. And that doesn't necessarily like mean they'd stay forever in something like that. You would treat it like with compassion like you would with a normal any other person, but it could be brought to their awareness that something did happen and that they can move forward and stuff like that. So it all depends again on like who's in there investigating and their interaction with it, and if they're even willing to interact at that level.
Yeah, cool. I've had a few of those experiences myself, and it's pretty interesting. So yeah, that kind of answered, I think, Tom's question. Kim did ask, though, if you want to become more in tune with spirit, what practices would you suggest? Or maybe if you want to share what you do to kind of connect with spirit, or what you would recommend.
So my when I started working with tarot as a tool, I still like using it as a tool, even though I don't really have to. But what started with that was what was suggested to me, and it worked. So I like sharing this. Was get a deck of playing cards from like your grocery store or whatever, just a plain deck of cards that you've never dealt with before, and then just kind of sit in a room that's quiet, or you could have like a fan or an air conditioner or something that you can kind of focus on. So when your mind wanders, you can recenter and just play with the deck, shuffle it, and hold like one card up at a time with the back facing you, and just ask, "What is this?" And you can start simple, like, "Is it black or red?" Or you can ask what suit it is, just something simple. And eventually you can go as far as like, you know, this is the ace of spades. Like you can actually go into that, and it started out. That's how it started out with me. And then the first like 2 weeks trying it, I would just do it for like 10 minutes before going to sleep at night. It was frustrating because I was like getting everything wrong, and I was like, I don't know if this is even a thing. Like, is this even gonna happen? And then one night, like I had a card, and I heard it in my left, like inner outside of me, like in my ear, what it was, and I flipped it around, and it was right. And then I got like 8 cards in a row that were right like that, and I'm like, holy crap! So that's kind of like how it started with me, and then doing with regular tarot cards, and kind of just meditating, quieting the mind, and especially working towards like focusing on positive things more and shifting my vibration. That turned more into, I still sometimes get like that inner ear like voice. It's a very faint whisper, but for the most part with me, it's like mental images or like a movie. So it's not like, sometimes I'll see things with like my eyes, but for the most part, it's like in my mind. And
Nice.
so it kind of like adapted. So, but the playing card trick, like what's fun with that is you're focusing with that and playing with that. And as long as you have something just quiet, like a fan or something, that because your mind likes to fill in with the chatter. So when your mind wanders, just focus back to that and just kind of like gently drift back to that focus. So not forcing it, just kind of going with it at your own pace.
That's perfect. That's funny because that's one of the practices I give some of my students sometimes is the playing deck of cards. So that's perfect. I also wanted to ask you to share a little bit about what services you actually offer as far as like readings or what people could consider if they wanted to reach out to you.
Currently, so I start out with I have a great book for nomenology. So I start out with like giving the person a little bit of background information about their name, and I know I did that with you, and you really enjoyed
I
that
loved
part.
that.
And it's you don't really think about it, but your name has a lot of subconscious power, and so it's there's tendencies or habits that you formed from that, and that kind of helps bring those to light. So it kind of sets the foundation. Um, I like to go into a little bit of astrology, um, and I'm always learning more and always studying more. So that could vary in like depth of how far I go, and always keep moving forward with that. I'll never stop learning. And then I go into a reading, and I use tarot and oracle. I use a whole bunch of different decks, and I don't do any particular like spread. I just kind of see what happens and what comes up, and then I can throw in. I have a kind of a really excellent resource for like cross-referencing relationships with astrology, and that's actually like a really interesting thing. So I can throw that in if anybody's interested in that. And then I also try to pick up on the key components of the aura. And if it's a like virtual reading later, what I try to do is like draw it out in like a PDF or a JPEG file, and then like I can email that to you, kind of like so you can get an idea of how I saw it.
Perfect. So do you do virtual readings or just by email or do both?
I have a Calendly, so like an online calendar, and depending on how nicely the internet plays, I'm doing it with like Zoom, but I can do it over the phone. And then like if people don't want to do that, I can also like do it remotely and then do it in either a video and email you that or PDF format. So it's really kind of like up to the person how they want it.
Nice. So tell us how to find Hinsdale Archives if someone wants to watch that.
So they can go over to findingphantoms.com, and then there's a videos tab there. And I haven't been on the website in a while, but I think it's like at the top of that one. There's a link to Amazon Video if they just search the Hinsdale Archives on Amazon Video, or they can go to YouTube and go to just search Finding Phantoms, and there will be one that's Finding Phantoms Productions. It looks like the channel itself is like a black circle with a white ghost in it, so it's pretty easy to find. And that has also like the travel stuff I was talking about too, where I think twice we had kind of subtle encounters too. But see, with all the investigations and everything I've done, I've had to get there really quick and then get back, and I missed all the stuff in between that might have been cool. So that's where the travel stuff came in, because it's like, let's kind of fill in the in between and just bring kind of the hidden gems that are off the interstates to people and see what we can find.
That's awesome. So also share with us then how people can book with you if they're interested in a reading.
They can go to calendly.com/Ryan Wef, RYAN WEF. I'm pretty sure that's the link. And then I can comment or like on this video too and put it in there. And then I think I have it set for like Monday through Wednesday, and I have hours available for that, maybe Thursday. But if it's a live reading, it's like a half hour. It might be a little bit longer. And then if it's a PDF, like you can just book it, but in the comments you can write if you want just a PDF or a phone call. So we can always discuss how they want to do it. So.
Okay, cool. Brooke just pinned that for everybody, and we'll be sure to share it again. if we don't end up adding it to this post. But anything else that you want to share as far as like websites or contact info or anything there?
Kind of a spin-off of the paranormal. I started a candle business doing it, and it's kind of funny because it's like I people buy votive candles and stuff like that for their own protection or for whatever they might want to do. But I kind of wanted to put my own intention into it, and then that kind of took its own creative spin. And so that is I named kind of went off the whole Finding Phantoms thing. I named it Phantom Flame. But it's creative because I can do all kinds of like different designs and stuff like that. But I started doing like sigil work candles and stuff like that. So I can do that. A couple of them I can do in like bulk, but I use all like house materials, and my prices are a little bit higher than, well, not all places, but what you would typically see, like 22 or so is about average. But the materials that I use, like, you won't find anything of that quality anywhere else on the market. So I make sure that I use good quality stuff.
And the person and the intention are so much worth paying the extra for to have your candles. Brooke and I still need to get candles ordered from you. So Brooke, don't let me forget. We'll take maybe one or two more questions if anybody has a question before we let Ryan go tonight. But this has been so awesome. I'm so glad that we actually got this to work for both of us, and super excited to see the second season of Hinsdale. When do you think that'll be out?
The thing with Hinsdale is I make plans and then plans get pushed. But I have at least episode 1 filmed. I want it to be 10 episodes. And the production quality and the work is going to be way better than the first one. I have so many creative ideas for it, and it's crazy because there's a couple interviews I want to set up for different things, and then researching one thing. I have a whole stack of books, so like researching one thing brings in 10 more things I have to do. And what's a little side story was the first season we caught this weird noise that sounded like air and like air pressure and then something knocking over upstairs. And reading Communion from Whitley Strieber, I mean, he published that particular version was published in the 80s, and he talks about his first encounter with extraterrestrial, and it's the exact same thing. He had talked about like a whoosh of air, and like it sounded like something falling over, and then he saw like a 3-foot figure. So I don't know if it'll happen, but I thought I was going to his fan page, but I actually accidentally friend requested him, and he accepted it. And I want to set up an interview with him and see if I can get that. So
Nice.
it'd be great. But then I would like to have this published probably like November timeframe of this year, but it might get pushed into next year. There's just so many variables, and then I know I have a problem with knowing when to cut things off because like I'll get several ideas and then I have to rein it back in and be like, wait a minute, I need to like cut the story off somewhere, otherwise it'll be 100 episodes.
That's awesome. I totally get that. It's like limitations, right? Like rein it in. Well, it doesn't look like we have any final questions, but I thank you so much for being here with me tonight. You're such an amazing soul, and I hope that you have the best of luck in the Hinsdale house and things don't go awry for you, but I won't be surprised if they do. Thank you to everybody that's watching tonight. We hope you enjoyed Ryan's interview, and if there's anything else we can do for you, just let us know. But we'll share the details on how to contact you for booking, and also the link to Hinsdale Archives, and look forward to talking to you again soon, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. It was a great time.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.